Hello, and welcome to the Slow Ready Podcast, a casual drive into the music and culture of Goose. I'm Alex.
And I'm Mike.
And we're back with a fun topic this week. We're going to be running back the 2024 Goose Yearbook, going through all kinds of school-related superlatives, activities, you name it. It's basically like a yearbook you had in high school. But first, before we get started, just wanted to shout out our social media. The best place to follow us and keep up with Goose news at Slow Ready Pod. We're everywhere you can think of. Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We don't like Twitter that much anymore. We're there. Also, you can email us at slowreadypod@gmail.com, and we'd love to hear from you. One last thing before we get into our main topic, we want to get into the news and notes for the week in our segment we call Hot Tea. So first, to kick off the news, Goose debuted their New Year's Eve show on the 31st of December, shortly after we recorded last week. Well worth a watch and listen if you haven't yet. We recapped that on our last episode. Most notably, just watch it just to see the crazy costumes, honestly. It's a great time.
Yeah, especially if you're looking to join the Eyes Wide Shut Goose cult in the near future.
That's true. That's the first admission point to joining the cult, is you have to watch that show.
Exactly.
Secondly, Bonnaroo announced their eclectic lineup this year from June 12th to 15th on the farm in Manchester, Tennessee. They're going to be playing on Friday, June 13th. Spooky. And they're actually on the second line of the billing for the day, like the fifth listed artist. So Goose is getting pretty big. Any thoughts on this lineup or anything about Bonnaroo, Mike?
Yeah, I mean it's a very interesting lineup. There's a lot of it there I wouldn't be super interested in, but there's definitely enough if you're a jam band fan, I feel like to kind of keep you involved. They've not only do you have Goose, but I'm really also into King Gizzard, doing 3 straight nights of shows there. So I don't know that I would find enough to entertain myself to find it worth camping for a few days, because I'm not a big camper, but there's definitely enough that you could plan a whole day each day and still see great artists all the way through. So it should be a lot of fun if anyone's interested.
Yeah, Bonnaroo is one of the big ones. I mean, it's not what it used to be back in the day, is like the holy grail of festivals along with Coachella. But there's a lot of cool stuff on here. I mean, especially if you have eclectic taste, like if you want to go wear your Juggalo outfit and see Insane Clown Posse and then leave your makeup on to go see Goose the next day, then Olivia Rodrigo. Like, it's all over the place, but should be a good time for anyone who goes there. Hope it's fun. And lastly, we don't know many details yet. By the time you hear this, you probably will, but Goose put out a teaser video of the guys topless. For those who are a fan of L Thirst group on Facebook, this video is for you. But it was a teaser video where, Jeff's just eating an apple. They're looking at a beautiful gardenscape, and date of 6/28 drops at the end of the video. So the obvious rumor here is Madison Square Garden. People are relating it to the Garden of Eden. There's been rumors about them playing the Garden in June. So what do you think, Mike?
Yeah, first off, Goose is 100% on funny teaser videos. They just do not miss these guys. But secondly, yeah, the MSG rumor has been floating around for at least a couple months now that I'm aware of anyways. So we're just going to have to wait on Goose, obviously, to be 100% sure. But it seems like reasonable to conclude that MSG is happening. And if so, that's obviously a humongous milestone and a lot of excitement naturally following that.
Yeah, and the reason we say you're probably going to know by the time you hear this is we're recording on Sunday the 12th. The first time they posted the video, it actually had a date of 1/13 on it. So we're assuming that's when things are going to be revealed. And then they took it down really quickly and put up 6/28 right after. So hopefully we'll know by the time you're listening, and very exciting stuff.
Definitely.
So with all that, let's get into the Flowdown, our 2024 yearbook here. We thought it'd be pretty fun to just split this up into the sections you'd see in a normal yearbook. So we figured we'd start with the student life section. And we're going to talk about the academics of the year by the numbers in 2024. Mike, you know how many shows they played, how many venues? Can you give us the basic rundown here?
Yeah, so just some high-level stats to start off with here. Goose played 69 shows in 2024 at 47 different venues in 29 states, and they played for 178 hours.
Pretty light. Light schedule, nothing crazy.
Exactly.
Crazy year. 69 is very nice. 29 states is more than I thought with all the multi-night stands, but that's incredible. They're just growing it at such a crazy pace. But amongst all those shows, some of their most played songs were Hot Love and the Lazy Poet, making his debut this year, played 17 times, and Hunger Sight also played 17 times. And then next up with 16 plays each was Arcadia and Silver Rising, fan favorites. And then 3 others were tied at 15 plays with Thatch, The Empress of Organos, and Tumble, followed closely by Dripfield Drive and Echo of a Rose with 14 plays. So they spread things out quite a bit. 69 shows and the most played song is 17 times. That's some pretty good variety, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely outstanding. And it's pretty noteworthy, at least in my opinion. Everyone's going to have different takes on the songs here, but if you're looking at the most played songs, you can definitely reasonably argue that these are all some of the strongest songs that they chose to play the most, with Hot Love being the newcomer, I guess, so to speak. It makes sense that it's also tied for most plays, but I think Hot Love has already made such an impression on the community that it is one of their best songs as well, especially as an opener. So no huge shocks to me as far as the most played songs here. They all make a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely. They're all basically injections of energy into a set or huge fan favorites. So either way, it's a win to hear these at multiple shows. And speaking of multiple shows and great shows, the band played 2 of their biggest shows of all time. Actually, their 2 biggest shows of all time back to back in the summertime. They played the Man in Philadelphia, which was their biggest show for about 24 hours before going to Forest Hills in Queens with 13,000 attendees, which is just wild to think back to back nights are playing your biggest shows. People are on the internet are saying it's a stretch to play Madison Square Garden, but if you're selling out 13,000 in Queens already, it's not that big of a leap to play Madison Square Garden, especially if you're not opening up behind the stage. It's not that many more seats. So I think it's incredible how much this band has grown, and it makes total sense to see them play a bigger venue in the summertime in the same city.
Yeah, and I mean, it's obviously not that big of a deal, but I do find it kind of ironic that you were at Goose's biggest show in history for less than a day, and then the very next day they broke the record from the show you were at. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah. That's how it goes for me. But we got the better poster. I will die on that hill, so it's a win.
Absolutely. One of the best posters of the year. No arguments on that whatsoever. And then to the MSG part, like, totally agree. I think when you take out the back part of MSG, I think it ends up being like 15 or 16K. So you're talking about like an extra couple thousand seats to fill. And with the added draw of New York City being what it is, and people are, have a relatively easy time talking themselves into making a weekend out of New York City, I really don't think Goose would have that much trouble doing really respectable numbers in MSG.
No, not at all. And I'm curious what the numbers were at Goosemas even. Like those haven't been clear to me, but it had to be pretty close, or at least within the same relative scale as what we saw at those 2 shows, I would think.
Yeah, especially considering Charleston, I looked it up, as basically about the same capacity as Hampton, and they both look like they were, pretty close to full, at least as far as the seating arrangement was set up, because they weren't doing behind the stage in Charleston either. So, yeah, I mean,
Right.
they're killing it as far as attendance and things, and I think they're ready for these next steps.
Totally. And a big part of seeing the community grow like this and shows grow like this is seeing big events before the shows driven by the fans. At Honker Academy here in 2024, the fan art community had quite a year. We had so many big artists in the fan community like Jively Designs, Fox and the Cobra, Rising Tide Art Studios, Drifter Merch, About Half Past Dead. I'm forgetting about 30 others. All incredible stuff. And we had events like the A-Town Flowdown in Atlanta. There's also Flock to the Fox. There was a shakedown at On Tour Brewing before the Salt Shed shows. There was the Queen City Flowdown in Cincinnati. We were lucky enough to attend the Seekers on the Ridge Flowdown in Winston-Salem, the Chuckdown Flowdown at Goosemas, and then there was even a small one, the Austin City Flowdown from New Year's Eve. Just incredible stuff. It seems like they're getting bigger and bigger with every month that passes by as a band, and then these events are growing along with them.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, especially when it comes to like multi-night runs, like the community has you covered. Like there's something going on, it seems like, on every corner. And like Alex said, super lucky and blessed and grateful to be involved in the flow down in Winston-Salem. That was obviously really awesome for both of us. But every single one of these events that I've gone to and that I've, been able to participate in, even if it's not like, with the other vendors, just coming as a fan, it's always just an amazing community that constantly shows up in and around this band. It's just the most welcoming, kind, awesome, and creatively talented people out there.
Most definitely. And it's pretty problematic for my wallet. Like, please stop designing such amazing merch, because I don't have space for it and I don't have the money for it, but I will continue to buy it.
You and me both, brother.
Yeah, it's a problem. My wife is going to kill me.
Tell Sarah not to do that. We love you.
Gosh. But along with the fan art community getting the love from us, Goose was also showing the love to the fan art community in a lot of ways. Early in the year, friend of the podcast, Jively Designs, collabed on a Western Sun long sleeve t-shirt to benefit the Western Sun Foundation. There's also, off the top of my mind, the Goose Miss Night Zero event that was officially put on by Goose that sold shirts officially done by Cats Under the Stitch and Rising Tide Art Studio. Pretty remarkable. I don't think I've seen a band do this where they let their fans have official merch sold at a show or a show event like this. Have you seen that, Mike?
No, never. And they do such a good job of staying plugged in. Like, I don't know, it's kind of an overused trite phrase, but like ear to the ground. Like Goose seemingly stays up to date on like everything that's going on in the community, and they embrace the community, which is far more than you can say for like most bands that are at least somewhat close relatively to the mainstream sphere. And it's so cool to me that they like, you've even seen like examples of, I think it was Madison Huven did that great like fake t-shirt for Rick, and then someone ended up making that t-shirt for Rick. So like the fact that he like even like sees the memes that are made in the community and things like come of that, like how lucky are we as fans that this band is just so gracious with the fans and giving back. It's just, they're the best.
Absolutely the best, and always so mindful of what is best for their fan base. I feel like they just always are kind of hitting the nail on the head, like you said. But speaking of that, another big part of this band, and we mentioned it briefly with the Jively Designs Western Sun shirt, was the Western Sun Foundation and also their work with the Conscious Alliance. So you want to tell us a little bit about that, Mike?
Yeah, so donations made by Western Sun to Conscious Alliance did 20 shows and events in total for Western Sun in 2024, and they gave 8,000 to Bridges of Hope from the Goosemas run, which was the largest donation to date. So, I mean, it kind of just sounding a little bit repetitive here, but every part of the Goose community keeps blowing up. And when you're talking about the aspect of it that is related to giving back to other people that, may need it, or other organizations that may need it and can do a lot of good in the world, it's just, that's probably the best aspect of the community blowing up, because you see tangible growth in the good people can do in the community. And that's just melts the heart.
Oh, most definitely. It makes you feel good about supporting the band that we love. At the end of the day, I mean, maybe that's a selfish take on it in a way, being able to feel good about what you like, but also it's just remarkable. Like, you don't see this with every group, you don't see this with every artist, and Goose is just doing it all.
Good place to be when you're a Goose fan.
Totally. So, outside of all the clubs and activities at Honkers U, we had freshman orientation this year with Cotter in the freshman class of Goose. And I think the best place to start with this is, after all the uncertainty of Ben leaving in 2023, we had these teases for what wound up being the TED Tapes 2024. One of the coolest parts of the year, even though it was the beginning of the Goose calendar, basically. But these shadow drops of these clips of different grooves with no context, hearing a drummer on there and not knowing who it is, although the rumor mill was wild and everyone kind of knew who it was. And you could already pick up on these looser, more exploratory jams early on, even just from these clips. And getting one clip a day for the 9 tracks that wound up being the TED Tapes, and then finally announcing on the 10th day that Cotter Ellis is the drummer. That's a hell of a way to be inducted into the freshman class of Goose.
Yeah, definitely. that era is like one of the most exciting moments I've ever had following any band, because those teaser clips meant everything at the time. You're totally right. We talked about this on a past episode, but being a relatively newer fan at the time, it was a little bit like scary because you're wondering like what's happening to your new favorite band. But those teaser clips became such like something that I was just hanging on and living on every single day. And I can kind of take my lunch whenever I want at work, but when those teasers were being released, it was like an absolute priority in my day that I am taking lunch at noon because I just could not wait to see what Goose was going to drop on the internet that day. And the amount of us that probably looked like the crazy stereotypical Charlie Day meme where he's, in front of the chalkboard with Pepe Sylvia and all the mail, that was all of us trying to like decode, what does this symbol mean? It's in the background. Is it Leo? Like it's a lion. Just it was, we were all losing our minds, but it was just a fun, super exciting transitory time for the band and to be a fan.
Did not have it on my bingo card to loop in Sunny and Philadelphia references with the TED tapes, but I'm here for it.
It seemed appropriate.
Definitely an exciting time. Definitely just what this band continues to do, like finding unique ways to intrigue the fan base, put themselves out there in a way that's different every time, and it's just stellar stuff. And these TED tapes are incredible. Still one of my favorite parts of the whole year. It's still some of my most listened to tracks overall. So great stuff. But shortly after getting these, we get into the Chateau sessions, which, Mike, I'll let you dive in on that because I know you have a soft spot in your heart for these sessions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This was, I think, when my fears were, totally put to rest about where Cotter was going to take this band, because it just, you could see right away how well they gelled. But also just from like being a fan perspective, at this point, I think like it had been like 3 months or so since we'd seen any Goose live shows. And obviously, a humongous part of my life revolves around sitting on the couch or laying in bed catching the tour from home. So this was the first thing where like me and all my fellow Goose fans could actually sit at home, watch live music from Goose, and chat about it. So it was just so fun to take in what this new iteration of the band was going to look like. And as soon as we finished the Sato sessions, all of us were pretty much just like, okay, nothing to worry about. Goose is in perfect hands. Very excited about where we're going. So, yeah, I'm still listening to the Chateau sessions. Every single part of it is just absolutely awesome.
It was just a monster set of jams out of the gate, just right after the TED tapes too. Just madness.
Yeah, I wish I could include some of them in my jam of the year, because there's a couple on there that are like actually worthy. Not to mention, you got to hear Rick going on his rant about mushrooms, which is still one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. So, yeah, Chateau Sessions rock.
Oh my gosh. Just a great time. So then we go into an announcement for the cap run, which is the peak hilarity for this band. With a lot of hilarious moments this year, this might be one of my favorite things that they did in terms of promos and funny shit. It was a teaser for the cap run, which was announced to be like a month after this video came out or something like that. It was a very short turnaround, but essentially it's Rick in a track outfit with a whistle and the other three guys, Peter, Jeff, and Tweaks. They're sitting there with clipboards and lab coats on while Cotter's training to be in the band and doing all kinds of dumb shit like shooting cans with a slingshot, eating raw eggs, doing pull-ups, getting hit with a stick in the chest, jumping jacks, you name it. It's so funny. And that was our official announcement for the cap run, 4-night stand in early April that just wound up being honestly the crown jewel of the year in a lot of ways. Outstanding shows. You start off right off the gate with the April 7th show. Don't know what the hell to expect from Cotter, even though we got the Chateau sessions. You're like, that's an intimate setting. Who knows what it'll be like at a real show? Second song in, we're playing a 30-plus minute jam of Drive, and you know this band is going to take off into the stratosphere. Any thoughts, firstly, on the video, and then we can get into the shows a little bit if you want, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, the video, honestly, thanks for jogging my memory, because Goose has been so prolific with funny videos this year. It's honestly hard to remember like that far back. I had kind of forgotten about the training montage video until you brought it up, and then all the images came rushing back with extreme vividness. So, yeah, thank you for the trip down memory lane there. I had lost track. there's just so many funny Goose videos floating in my brain right now. But that was definitely one of the highlights. And if I'm remembering correctly, it may be like the first funny video of 2024. So little did I know how many great ones were going to be following behind it, but great tone setter.
Yeah, it was an early sneak peek into how much Cotter likes to be shirtless. I'll throw it out like that.
It was a hint for sure.
It was. But again, getting into the shows themselves, just monster set lists here. We had that debut, that drive from that first night is just considered a jam of the year by many. We got the debut of songs like Salt, Hot Love. We closed out the first night, set two, with a Factory Fiction. Like they were setting the tone early. Monster Pancakes that first night. And then getting into night two, Solar Eclipse Day. They play the entirety of Moon Cabin front to back. I mean, people had picked up on it pretty quick as soon as it was getting into Arcadia, I think. But we heard the most incredible version of Into the Mist that we had ever heard up to that point. We got another outstanding Rosewood Heart in set two. Got all the jives, got all the interludes. Just fantastic stuff. Night three, continuing the madness. Another monster Thatch, Wisteria. That Redbird is obviously close to my heart, loving Redbird, and that's just my favorite version of the year, I think. And, then night four. I mean, the only time you can say it this year, night four. You get special guest appearances from Vampire Weekend. We get some monster jams. There's the first preview into how crazy Tumble is going to be for the year. So just so much to talk about with these shows. We could have an entire 4-episode run, I feel like, just talking about the cap. Any high-level thoughts, Mike, overall on this run?
So this is going to require all the restraint I have inside of me as a human being to limit this a little bit, because this is, in my opinion, the greatest Goose run of all time is these 4 shows. So especially if you're looking at it in totality, I mean, I've never seen people struggle or wrestle so much as to picking out what was the best jam for the 4 nights, what even was the best night of the 4. I've been engaged in so many different arguments and discussions on that point, but it's because they're so amazing. And even after a year where I can confidently say Goose grew up in terms of improv and jamming, and by the end of the year was doing stuff I had never heard from them as a band, it's so telling as to how much high quality is here that we're still talking about this cap run. And I mean, like, I think 2 of my top 10 jams of the year are from the cap run, 4 of the top 25 are from the cap run. So it's amazing how well it really still is holding up at this point, considering all the great work they put out. Night 2 to me may be the most perfect Goose show ever performed. I still have a hard time picking anything over the Eclipse show, but I mean, it's just stellar quality from top to bottom. And then, like, last but not least, yeah, that Cape Cod Quassa with Vampire Weekend, like 33-minute just beast of a jam. Like, it's just absolutely unbelievable how good that run is. And I'm probably over 100 watches on each night.
Yeah, I mean that's an understatement. I feel like these shows are just incredible, and the fact that they put them out for us to immediately listen to the soundboards and watch on YouTube and all of that, and then an official release on top of that, they obviously felt these were special right off the gate. And taking it back to our freshman orientation theme here, real quick, the fact that these are considered still some of the best shows of the year as Cotter's first live performances with this band, that just speaks to how talented of a drummer he is, how great of a listener he is, how much patience he's instilled into these guys right off the bat, and just made this a better band at the end of the day in so many ways. As much as we love and miss Ben and we love that era, this is just a new place this band's gotten to, and it's just an exciting time to be a fan. But in this moment, you had a huge sense of relief in April, knowing that this band's going to be in an okay place.
Absolutely perfectly said. I'll just add on to that. One thing I saw from one of probably my favorite page on Instagram, Griffin's Pickens, this week said he highlighted Cotter a little bit with one of the drum solos, I believe from Hot Love, and he was like, there's never going to be anything as someone being better or worse than someone else, but I can confidently say this is the best drummer for this band. So I kind of feel like that's the perfect way to say it. Absolutely agree. Love Ben, but this band could not be in a better spot. So I think everything worked out for the best.
Yeah, and wishing Ben the best. He's been doing a lot of cool stuff on the side. Hopefully, he'll find a permanent landing spot and really excited to see where the future takes him as well, because we love old shows too. It's just different now.
Yeah, we're both still following Ben. Everything he does, we're going to take a great interest in. So love that guy.
Absolutely. And speaking about how awesome Ben is and how awesome Goose is, we thought we'd get into our superlatives section of the yearbook. And this might get a little unhinged. So we're going to list off some typical superlatives you see in a yearbook, maybe not so typical. We have not consulted each other on these. We can interpret them however we want. And we'd love to hear from you too. We'll put the list out of all the superlatives. If you want to send us an email with your thoughts and what you'd pick for the superlatives, we'd love to hear them. I wish we had collected more feedback on these early on. This kind of came together last minute, but this is going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully, if you want to participate, email us at slowreadypod@gmail.com. We'll put the list out there for you. But first, we'll start off with a big one, a typical one, most likely to succeed. Let's first go with, how did you interpret this superlative, Mike? And then what'd you pick?
Okay, so how I interpreted it was my mind immediately went to like impressive debuts. So the two things that stood out to me here were the Give It Time debut at the Cap, because obviously it's just such a catchy song that it immediately tells you how great it is. And pretty much everyone in my group chats was raving about, like, this is the first new shows with a new drummer, and they're also going to debut a new song. And oh yeah, it's also awesome. But honorable mention also goes to Big Modern 36-minute debut. Who writes a new song and then debuts it at 36 minutes? Like, absolute insane work by Goose the Band. So those would be my two picks for this. What are you thinking here, Alex?
Interesting. Okay. With most likely to succeed, I kind of thought of it a little bit different, but I really like where you went with it, especially with that Big Modern debut. That's just insanity. To be the longest song of the year and a new song, Goose kind of tends to do that with their new songs sometimes. Just go ham with them and explore and see where they can go with it. But this jam's actually a little bit underrated, I feel like, at the end of the day. It might not explore as much as you might want to cover in terms of territory, in terms of the length, but it's still just a lot of cool ideas in this Big Modern, and being a song that they never tried this on before, it's pretty remarkable. But I interpreted this superlative, most likely to succeed, as the song that was most likely to kick ass when you heard it in a set list. So I got to go with Tumble. It's the year of Tumble. And we got absolutely stellar versions all sprinkled throughout the year, whether it was at the Cap, where we got that incredible Blissy, You Want to Live in This Forever, as you said one time on this podcast, Mike. We got a great version at St. Louis, CMAC, Atlanta, my favorite, Philly, Jam of the Year, Charlottesville, Eugene, St. Augustine, Cincy, even the last show of the year, Austin. They're all just so different and so great. It was really one of those songs that you could not miss. Even if it was a shortened version of it, it was just in a great spot. And I was very close to picking a few other songs, but I was like, no, I got to stick with Tumble. Like, Arrow was trying to sneak in there a little bit. Even Rockdale was trying to sneak in there a little bit, even though they were more compact jams. But I had to stick with Tumble for this. And kind of leveraging off that, you had mentioned Big Modern for your pick. I had picked that for most ambitious in terms of our superlative, which we had kind of lumped these two maybe together a little bit. So I was going to go with that 36-minute debut for the most ambitious superlative of the year. You have any other thoughts for that, Mike?
Yeah, no, to be honest with you, I think it could work either way. I think Big Modern also fits as most likely to succeed, because if you saw the reactions from people online after they debuted Big Modern 36 minutes, I think the hype was just like as high it could possibly be, because one, you're debuting a new song that people have no familiarity with, but as you debut it, you're also announcing to everyone in the same breath, hey, by the way, this new song, monster jam vehicle. Here's the proof on the very first play. So I think that kind of gave Big Modern an aura that it definitely rode for all of 2024. So I feel like I could also make an argument that it was most likely to succeed. Either way, I could see it either way, but I loved how you thought about this with most likely to succeed for Tumble, because we've talked about that all year. Tumble is like can't miss entertainment right now. It's hitting on all cylinders. And I think when I look back at my Jam of the Year notes, when I go back through the various tumbles that stand out, there's more differences in the jams for tumble, in my opinion, than any of the other jams this year.
Totally, exactly how I was thinking about it. You nailed that. And yeah, Big Modern. I've told this story probably way too many times on the show, but we thought it was so good hearing it from the lots that it wasn't even a Goose song. We just assumed it was a cover that we were not familiar with. And we're Googling the lyrics frantically, and it turns out it's a Goose original that just sounds like Dire Straits. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, I remember you sending me from the actual parking lot, like the clip of them doing the sound check, and you were like asking me like, what does this sound like to you? And I was getting really like frustrated and upset with myself because I'm like, I've listened to this clip 3 times now, and yeah, it's quiet, but I should be able to figure this out. I'm a big enough Goose fan. I should know what this is. And I just could not figure it out. So it was a huge relief when you leave the show and then I find out that, oh, it's a new song. Okay, I don't feel that bad about it. So that was just a funny memory from summer.
Yeah, I mean, that lot scene at Homedale was frantic because no one knew what it was. After a while, we just kind of resigned to the fact that we weren't sure what it was, and no one else around us seemed to know either. And then during the show, they're playing the song, and like 20 minutes in, still nobody knows the name of the song. Everyone's like refreshing El Goose around us. Like it looked like the entire place was on their phones, like trying to figure out what the name of the song was. It's just an incredible moment.
Amazing. Yeah, totally.
But let's get into the next superlative here. Let's get into the class clown. So what you pick for this, Mike?
So obviously loaded 2024. I've got 2 for this one as well. I feel like a lot of these, I'm looking back, I've got like 2 picks for each one of these, but big 2024 to discuss. So class clown, I think obvious standout is going to be D&B Flamingos for me. If you were at Goosefest or you've watched the stream, I'm sure you've since seen, like, will any of us ever be able to top the memory of Peter and Rick floating on inflatable pool flamingos across the sea of people at Goosefest? I mean, it's just, that's as class clown as it gets for me. But an honorable mention to the factory fiction at the Salt Shed, thinking about this in jam turns, because Rick threw in Duel of the Fates teases from Star Wars, which
Oh yeah,
hit the spot for me, and it was a great moment that was, like, on the one hand super cool, but also like brought some levity to the performance, because it's just like he's shredding Star Wars right now. That's what's happening. Awesome.
those are 2 outstanding call outs. And I mean, the flamingos is iconic. Like that's just there's the picture of Rick with his fist up. We used it for one of our
Yeah.
episode teasers. That looks like literally as iconic as like the Rocky scene or something, but for Goose.
Yes, exactly.
But so funny and so over the top. And then also that salt shed. Yeah, absolutely. That everyone heard it. The Duel of the Fates were like all texting each other like, am I hallucinating? Is this really our nerdy dream come true? Rick's going ham on Duel of the Fates, the only good part of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, exactly.
So absolutely terrific. But once again, we've thought of this completely differently. For my class clown, I picked Riker, aka NASCAR Rick, aka Have You Ever Eaten a Paint Chip Rick, aka Men's Warehouse Rick. And the bloopers were even funnier. And as a side note, are we sure that Rick, aka Riker, isn't the one behind the drones in New Jersey? Because he claims A, he's never met anyone from New Jersey in those outtakes, and then B, he asks if anyone's ever flown a drone without a license. So really makes you think.
It does make a guy think for sure. That's a great pick, though. I definitely wasn't thinking of it that way, but Riker's going to pop up in this a little bit later on my side of things.
So funny and such a great way to promote the fall tour. I obviously Riker came back for this teaser video we got that we're speculating is MSG. He's at the end of it with a what the fuck face looking at the guys.
Yeah.
So pretty funny. And he might qualify for this next superlative, but I did not pick him for this. But we're going to go with best personality as our next superlative. So what do you have here, Mike?
Best personality. This is a little bit tough, but for me, I'm going to go with Cotter, and maybe it's just recency bias, but the amount of personality that Cotter has brought to this band, both in like terms of like costumes, his singing, and just like Like, especially, like, if you think about, like, the style he sings in and, like, the cover that he did at Halloween, and the fact that at Halloween he's dressed as 11 in a pink dress, and then, like you mentioned earlier, all the shirtless vests. I mean, he's the reason I have a coonskin hat, which if you had asked me, 6 months ago even if I would ever own one of those. I mean, it's a faux hat. I'm not into, like, a real thing, so just let me be clear. It's a faux coonskin hat, but I do own one, and that would never happen if it wasn't for Cotter. So he would be my pick for best personality for sure.
Mike, we know you're in your backyard hunting raccoons every night. Like, you don't have to lie to the people.
No, I'm
No,
not.
no way. You're the opposite of that, but that is
Yeah,
an awesome pick. Yeah, Cotter's added a whole new flair to the humor of this band. You could make a case for any of the members of this band for best personality in their own
definitely.
way, which is why I picked none of them for my pick because it was too hard to pick between them. So I went with a more like feel good, sappy version of this. Best personality. I picked the song Give It Time because it's just such a feel good song, relatable emotion conveyed throughout. It really connected with people immediately and has proven itself as a song that can fit in anywhere in a show, anywhere in a set list, and always be welcome. So I just thought it was the most approachable, friendliest feeling song of the year.
Yeah, no disagreements there. I think that's an awesome way to look at it and a great pick. And if radio in America didn't suck so bad, that song would be on radio because it's that catchy. But that's conversation for another day.
I mean, to be fair, radio everywhere kind of sucks. As someone who travels a lot for work,
This is true. Yeah, it is all basically garbage, but especially in America. But anyways, like I said, neither here nor there.
neither here nor there. No, that's why we have Nugs, buddy.
That's where we listen to music and nowhere else.
But as such highbrow individuals here on the Slow Ready podcast, we're so sophisticated. We're going to go into our next superlative, most intelligent, which is an interesting one to try to interpret and come up with a superlative idea for. So, what'd you come up with here, Mike?
So again, looking at this two ways, like I have pretty much consistently throughout this, but from a jam perspective, I would go Colorado Madhuvan or Westville Rockdale. I feel like they're the most challenging listens from 2024. I don't have either one ranked like as the top spot of my jam of the year, but I think if you're like looking at jams in terms of like major accomplishments, those two definitely represent humongous leaps forward for the band. But also like honorable mention to Professor Trevor, who taught a great class on the life and works of Kevin Costner over the summer. So um I learned a lot,
Oh
even though I
god.
only got to see a clip of that class. But I'm hoping to take that class at some point.
I had that actually as a sneaky one on my list too. But also the aliens, whoever that guy is that Peter was dressed as in those promo videos too. I thought about him too for most intelligent,
Yeah.
but I wound up going similar vein as you. I picked that Westville Rockdale. It's up high on my favorite jams of the year. We talked about that earlier in the year, even. This one went to all kinds of cool, interesting spaces, dark, harmony and dissonance at a perfect balance in this. Rick and Peter are showing off their ability over the year that got better and better to trade off, taking the lead on jams. You have Trevor really holding his own at several points during this. It's a really challenging, might not be the word I would pick, but just a really intricate listen that requires a lot of time back with it to really get the full depth of it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. You said it perfectly.
And Madhuvan from Colorado's the same way. I just have attendance bias, which I'll shout out later for my favorite version of Madhuvan.
That's another one like Tumble where you could just point to all of the ridiculous options as far as best version of Madhuvan this year. I mean, there's like 4 on my jam of the year list, so really good year for that too.
So let's get into the next superlative here because we could go on about Madhuvan forever, and we're already running long here. Let's go to most likely to cut class / most likely to nap in class. We've kind of lumped them together. What'd you think about this one, Mike? I think we have the same one, honestly.
Yeah, I'll just keep it brief because I'm pretty sure we do. Just guessing because your brain works like mine does. How it ends: one appearance at the Cap. We think it's part of the Werewolf trilogy of songs, but that was the one time and never saw it again. And people don't like that; they want to see it again.
Yeah, we're in alignment here. one time, night 4 of the cap, disappeared for the year. It was nice to see, you know, they had played it as Visudo a couple years prior, but never as Goose. Total earworm. It kind of gives me like, after seeing Warren Haynes band at Soulshine, it kind of gave me like some Warren Haynes vibes here in the version of How It Ends from the cap, listening back before this episode. Some classic rock kind of feel to it and really cool bass line from Trevor. I would love to see this come back, but it totally disappeared on us.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold out hope for 2025. We don't like have any evidence that it's coming back, but I'm still gonna be hoping. So people want to see it back.
This might have been a candidate for the next superlative if it got played more, but it disappeared. So our next superlative is most likely to become famous. And what'd you pick for this one here, Mike?
So I looked at this just from the perspective of what I thought was going to get the most traction with people as far as like things that happened in 2024. And I really feel like for me, it's going to be the Help Slip Frank from Goosemas. If you listen to the pop from the crowd during the show, if you've listened to the show or if you saw like the reactions and how many pages were like jumping on reposting that the day after it happened, it obviously made a huge impact on people. And yeah, I don't have much to add on that, but it definitely broke the internet a little bit.
Oh, it sure did. That's a great call out. It's a shame that the balls didn't get drawn during the bingo shows just because I think they would have jammed them out a little bit more. But it was still excellent to hear it didn't just crush Help Slip Frank. And I hope it sticks around because Dead Ahead's on the mind right now. Rick's currently playing down there. He'll be playing tonight, but I want to see more Dead covers in 2025. I went with a different take a little bit, but still a cover. And I picked Running Up That Hill from Kate Bush, played on Halloween. And I picked it purely because, A, it's just an awesome song and they absolutely crushed it. But it turns out that the song was just the jam vehicle that this fan base never knew they needed. Just an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous rendition of the song that went into a jam that was like Dripfield's long lost cousin. And it's going to be remembered super well. There was 2 great versions I can think of off the top of my head from the year. One being that Halloween show, all dressed as the Stranger Things cast, and then the Cincinnati version, which might be even better, just depending on who you ask. So just terrific stuff. I think it's one of those covers that's going to be remembered so well, like 5-10 years from now.
Yeah, 1,000%. Definitely everyone was a humongous fan of that. Led to some interesting electronic heavy synth type jams at the end. And I mean, they absolutely killed it. And I think the most impressive thing about it is how great Rick's vocals sound on it. Like we've said it before, but there's not too many jam band singers that could sing that song adequately, let alone as well as he does. So awesome stuff.
Yeah, totally. I think Rick's voice improving so much, even in the last year or two, is what has led to them being able to do covers like this, where he can explore more and try new things. And it just wound up terrific on this Kate Bush cover. And while it wasn't the danciest cover you'll hear, it's still pretty dancey. We're going to go with best dance moves as our next superlative. So, what do you got for this one, Mike? There's a lot of choices, obviously.
Yeah, I'm just going to be brief. I think I've mentioned all of these at least once on previous episodes of ours. So if you want to go and check them out, definitely recommend it. But Pancakes in Montana, Cinnamon in Cincy, and Draconian Meter Maid from New Year's Eve. Those are, for me, the 3 biggest dance parties that I've listened to this year. But tons of good candidates, especially like we've been talking about. Pete's expanded his repertoire of like looping and sampling and things like that. So there's a lot more dance parties in 2024 and probably even more in 2025, but those are the 3 for me that were danciest.
Dude, you missed a big one, and I'm a little bit disappointed because you missed one from your very own show, Cinnamon It's Back, dude. The crowd went nuts. That was like literally the best dance moves of the crowd as a whole.
Okay, so can I speak to that real quick? So yeah, no, I was there, and like it is noteworthy because Peter came on stage for the encore and basically said that's the biggest dance party I've ever seen. So obviously it was a big deal.
Exactly.
But I would not have been feeling great about my conscience if I included that Cinnamon when I know in my heart the Cinnamon in Cincy was better and more of a dance party. I don't think that the people on the stream were dancing as hard as they were at SPAC, but that version is definitely more danceable, and I just wouldn't have been able to live with myself if I didn't include that one. So that was the reasoning.
Hey, no, that's totally fair, and I'm just giving you shit. All out of love,
That's
but
fine.
I wanted to shout that Cinnamon out just because of that kind of like crazy dancing that was going on in the crowd there. The other things that come to mind is you actually mentioned the Cinnamon from Cincy. I went with the Engborg from Cincy too, and then the Jive Lee from Denver, underrated dance party, epic Jive Lee, and the show that I was at that had the hardest dancing I saw personally from my shows was the Creatures at Goosemas. Maybe not the most special version you'll ever hear or most unique jam, but it was the biggest dance party I was at a show all year. So wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, Creatures would be a huge dance party. Totally agree. Great picks though.
Yeah, hard to go wrong there. Honestly, there's probably 100 we're forgetting that we're going to be like, oh crap, like we should have picked that. Next up, we got most spirited. Most spirited. There's a lot of ways to look at this one as well. I'm going to go first here, just so I hope you don't steal my pick. But I went with, we're talking about yearbooks. I went with the Wilton High School shows, obviously, celebrating the school's festival of art and languages. And there was a performance for the students in the afternoon, and then for the staff of the school and friends of the band at night. Really nice vlog they put out about revisiting their old high school, where you can see old footage of Rick and Trev playing Ghostbusters when they were teenagers, and they brought it back for one of the shows. So just really cool. And, you know, what better way to describe most spirited than going back to your old school and showing some school spirit?
I'm going to be honest. I'm a little bit mad that I didn't choose that or think of that because that's the obvious answer. And so Alex wins on this one. Not that we're playing for points, but he does win on this one. um, but it's, yeah, to your point, super cool too that they did a show in the day for the kids and then did a show at night for the staff. Like, just absolutely amazing. Vlog, great too. I went with the entire Halloween show. I think it's just kind of like a perfect encapsulation of what it's like to follow this band. You know, we've said it a million times, but they really love a good theme and selling out for a theme. And they went all in for the Halloween show. I mean, I could also mention Goosemas. That theme was super well executed as well. New Year's kind of just behind those two. But whenever Goose commits to a bit, they're all in and they have so much spirit about it. So
Totally. They never do anything less than 100%, which is just absolutely excellent. And it spoils us rotten.
definitely.
Next up, we've got most likely to be president, which was a little bit tricky, but what'd you come up with for this one here, Mike?
So I said this would reappear in our talk here, but I think Rick, but specifically Rick as Riker, I think would be the most presidential for me. And this is not to say that Rick does not have a great aura. Obviously, he does, especially with combined with the power of the crystal. You know, he obviously has a great aura, but Riker Rick specifically has the most presidential of auras to me. You just feel like he's going to run a government with a little bit of nonsense. It's not going to be a no nonsense government, but it's going to be just the right amount of nonsense. And so, yeah, that would be my pick for most presidential.
What is it about Riker? Is it the Crocs?
I mean, it's everything. It's the way he speaks to us in the camera. Like you can feel like a little bit of like he's looking into the nation's soul to some extent. You know, some people may say I'm reaching here a little bit, but this is the feeling it gives me. So I don't know. What did you go with, Alex?
I mean, hey, we called it out earlier. I mean, he was the first to talk about the New Jersey drone issue. So he's clearly got the right priorities on the mind.
He's on it.
He's on it. No, I went a totally different direction, and mine's a little more abstract because I couldn't come up with like a specific person. I guess if I had to, it would be Peter, but I'm not sure who actually does this. So Peter slash whoever is making the decisions on what highlights to share for us on YouTube, because I feel like the most important thing for a leader like a president to do is to serve the people and give them what they want. And whoever's making these decisions for highlights of the shows to share, they're serving the people. They're picking the best highlights, exactly what people are hoping to see on YouTube the next day or later in the week to relive the show that they were just at or just listened to or wanted to see a clip of. The Goose is just so in touch with what their fan base wants, way more than other bands we followed. And it's not always the case with the band. So we're very lucky and very fortunate. And I fully expect that to continue into 2025.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, multiple people in the community talk about it, but this band's online presence before Peter and after Peter is just such a marked difference. It's absolutely crazy, which is, sometimes why it's hard to find older stuff on Goose. But, since he joined the band, it's just been, they're the best, absolute best.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're still waiting for those archive shows, Goose. So please just put them up, 2014, 2015
Please,
shows. Like,
please.
it's just your reminder. Coach, I know you're listening. Probably not. But please.
But if
we
you
know
are,
there's like at least information. There's at least information in the archive somewhere. We need it.
Yeah, we do. Super nerds over here.
Now that we're done begging a little bit, this next superlative might have you begging for more with best dressed. What'd you come up with here, Mike? There's an obvious answer here.
Yeah, there's an obvious answer, and I'm hoping mine isn't that obvious answer. My pick actually goes to Trevor. I think that the guy has one of the greatest shoe collections of anyone I've ever seen that plays music for a living, and he makes denim jackets look like the in item to wear at all times. So, yeah, I mean, and the dude rocks a hairstyle that is just so flowing, stoic, and elegant. I mean, and the way he stands on stage, he's just got a fashionable presence.
Dude, we both were trying to like zag where the other one zigged, because Cotter is the obvious answer here. But
Yes.
I went with Trevor at Goose Miss.
We tried to avoid it.
The Terry Alfredo drip, the curls, the neck scarf, the fingerless gloves, the mustache. I mean, is it even legal to exude that much sexual charisma? I don't know. But Trevor at Goose Miss was my zag pick if you zigged. But the obvious answer's got to be Cotter. Just picking out stuff from the thrift store, wearing it at any given show. You mentioned the coon hat. Just always something new. The Uno earring. He was just totally just living his best life on stage with whatever he had available to him, and he rocked it.
Didn't he make like a chain out of a pack of Zins too, or something for one of the shows? Or was like a? I mean, just so. Dude's unreal. You're totally right. I just thought he's going to pick Cotter for sure, so let me pick Trevor, and that was just hilarious to me that we both did the same thing.
Yeah. I was like, "There's no way he's not picking Cotter. I'm going to pick Trevor Goose Miss." But no. So shout out all the guys in the band. Really, just on any given theme night, nailed it. But I think Cotter, especially, just every night was just doing his best. Next up, we got most likely to be late. So how'd you think about this one? This one was kind of tough for me, Mike.
Yeah, so I thought of this two ways again. I thought of two things. I thought of New Year's Eve, because there was no curfew on New Year's Eve, obviously, because we played till forever. Night 4 of the Cap Run, which I want to say that went till like 1 a.m. or something like that. It was really late show either way. But then also as songs, I always think of Factory Fiction, because it almost always without fail appears late in the set. Like, so those were kind of the two shows, and then the one song that made me think of most likely to be late. What were you thinking here?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. I also want to shout out both Goose Miss shows, two of the longest run times of all time for a show. So those went pretty late too, but I went a different direction, got a little cheeky, and wanted to be unique because I thought I didn't know how to think about this. So I went with Hunger Site during the fall tour, which you might not think of it as like having exceptionally long run times or anything like that. No, but during the fall tour, it had a streak of 5 straight shows where it closed out a set or was in the encore, starting with the Armory in Minneapolis, then went to Carnation, Washington, then Stanford, California, then the Mempho Fest, and then Winston-Salem, where we had our minds blown by that monster of a Hunger Site. So it's a great slot for Hunger Site to be in to close out any given set, and I think that it was most likely to be late for quite a stretch of the year.
Yeah, that's a great call out. I love that.
Yeah, man. I had to get weird with this because I know that our minds often think the same, and I want it to be so different from you.
Yeah, you accomplished it. That was a great job there. Love that.
Next up, we've got most outgoing, and I'm curious how you thought about this one as well.
Yeah, so for this one, I went with Hot Love. As we said earlier, it was tied for most played song, but I also just think it's a easy to love pop rock song where if you introduce it to people, high chance of success rate that they're going to be friends with that song. So kind of I bent it a little bit to think of it this way, but that's where my head went.
Dude, we went the exact same place.
Oh
that
my
was exactly
God,
what I put down.
No way.
Early debut, one of the most played songs of the year, like we mentioned early on in the episode. That's just a great call out. That was like one of the tougher superlatives to come up with something for, honestly. But if you want to talk about most outgoing, I think another one that you could pick again would go back to that tumble where it just was outgoing into all kinds of different spaces. One of the most incredible years for a song we've heard from Goose yet. So shout out to Tumble as well, because we both picked the same thing for Hot Love.
Yeah, and I guess I did have an honorable mention here too. I can't remember if I think it's the Pancakes from Cuthbert that's 34 minutes long, but the way
Yep.
that jam goes, it's really long, but all the sections are very short. So there's like a million sections to that jam. I'm kidding, but it's actually like 10 or 15 different 2-3 minute sections. That jam kind of seems to me like it has the personality of someone that will go around at a party and shake hands with everyone. So that was kind of my honorable mention, thinking about it a different way.
Yeah, and I wanted to also shout out friend of the pod, Naveed, working in merch, super outgoing guy. He is the Eugene Pancakes of humans. So outgoing, so friendly.
Yeah, he totally is. Great dude.
And speaking of Naveed a little bit, not that I picked him for this, sorry Naveed, but next up is most likely to brighten your day. So how'd you think about this one here, Mike? Because this one could go a number of ways.
So I definitely thought of like best bliss jams from the year. So like for me, that would include Tumble from the Cap Run, Dripfield from St. Augustine, Into the Mess from the Cap Run. But then like also honorable mention thinking outside of jams. Probably any time that Trevor says anything at all in a vlog or any time at all that Cotter is involved in a photo, those two things also are always going to brighten my day. What about you?
The first immediate answer is literally everything about Goose, but I went on one of the tangents he talked about, and actually one of the songs he talked about. I went with Bliss and what made you smile listening to it throughout the year, and I picked that Into the Mist from the Cap. Just absolute peak bliss there. It was the first time we had ever seen a mist go to a place like that. Song morphed and moved around in so many different ways throughout the jam. And at no point is it possible to listen to this mist without having a huge smile on your face. So I had to pick it for most likely to brighten your day.
Yeah, I mean, I would be very shocked. Anyone that's participating in Jam of the Year doesn't have Into the Mist in their top 10. I would be pretty shocked. It's just universally loved.
We'll see, but yeah, it's definitely up high for me. I can't remember where I have it slotted, but it is very, very high on my list and one of my most listened to tracks of the year. So next up, speaking of that jam morphing and shifting, most changed is our next superlative. I'm going to go first here on this one because again, I think you might steal this one from me, and I want to go first because I'm being greedy. But I went with STL, salt, capital salt. Most changed. The song's name changed so many times, multiple personality disorder for this thing, but epic regardless of how it's named. I'm here for it.
Yeah, so we did good here. Like we really didn't consult with each other. I think people are going to be like, "Bullshit, you totally did." With how many times we've had the same answer, but we really didn't. This has been shocking to me, but we did good here. So I picked Atlas Dogs. We've gone back and forth on the
Okay.
style of Atlas Dogs. You know, they've got the two versions that they like to rotate between, and every time I think that we're kind of moving into a phase where it's like, okay, we're playing Atlas Dogs this version, they'll bring back the other version. So Atlas Dogs changed around a couple different ways, and I saw it in both of its formats this year. So that was my pick. Honorable mention, though, All I Need, Is It Fast, Is It Slow and Melodic? Like that gets changed around quite a bit as well.
Great call outs. Agree completely. There was a lot of songs like that. I mean, you could even argue Missed in that with the way that the jams were different throughout the year. There's all kinds of songs you could pick for that. So it was really an interesting superlative. Next up, another tricky one for me at least, was most likely to win a Nobel Prize. How'd you think about this one here?
Yeah, so I didn't realize that I put this down twice. So my apologies to everyone out there. I'm just gonna say my sentence and back out because I messed this up. But it's Professor Trevor again, of course, for known for his knowledge on Kevin Costner. Yeah, I'm sorry for dropping the ball here, but dude's really
This
intelligent and probably going to win a Nobel Prize.
thing, repeats are allowed here, man. You're allowed to repeat, otherwise we'd be screwed because there's a lot of categories that can fit multiple things.
Yeah, lots of superlatives.
Lots of superlatives could fit the same song or same idea multiple times for sure. But I wasn't sure, again, kind of abstract, like one of my other answers. Wasn't sure who to specifically give this to, but just wanted to shout out all the philanthropic efforts made by Goose as a whole, whether it was the band, the staff, and crew throughout the year. They raised tons of funds for the Conscious Alliance, teamed up with the Western Sun Foundation. We spoke about both of those. And then also the philanthropic shows, the Hurricane Helene benefit shows in Winston-Salem and in Alabama, and then also Soul Shine, where they joined Warren Haynes and Dave Matthews Band. The band clearly wants to just do their part to help where they can, and really wanted to shout that out because it's remarkable.
Yeah, and the toy drive at Goosesmith, just all those philanthropic efforts, they mean so much. So just they can take all my money, and it's so much easier when they're also great people.
Yeah, that definitely helps you to feel good about your decisions, like I said before, which is a little selfish take on it, but just very proud to support these guys.
Totally.
And most likely to break the internet is up next. Tons of options for this one as well. I went with like 4 different picks on this, so I'm curious to hear what you think of this, Mike, because there's like funny and serious and all of that. So let's hear yours first, and then I'll decide which one to reveal.
Okay, yeah, you've got 4, so I'm definitely not going to step on your toes here. You got options either way. I didn't have that many. I already said Help Slip Frank. That probably is the actual answer here, but because I already said it, I wanted to get a bonus answer. So I'm also going to say Acoustic Cincinnati obviously had a tremendous impact on all of us in the fan base, and I don't think anyone was really expecting that. And at the time, to see that live, and then for everyone to get that was there in Cincy. I have friends that were there. It just seems like it broke their brains, and it definitely, I feel like, broke the internet.
Yeah, that was such a great surprise, even though it was kind of teased both night 1 and night 2 that something special was coming. It also broke the internet in a different way where people thought that there was going to be a monster guest coming to Cincy Night 3, and it wound up being the acoustic set, which in its own way is like a cooler surprise, in my opinion, in some ways. But I think I'm going to go with my funny one here to start because I don't know. I'm a little bit vindictive sometimes. And I'm going to go with the announcement that Goose was headlining the All Good Now Festival for all of the other jam band fans in the world.
Oh, I love this.
You had Disco Biscuits fans losing their minds over Goose having the top billing, and they were down at the 5th line. You had Fish fans like they never deserved to headline a festival. All the anger of the jam band community came out, and the comment section was all cutthroat. So I just thought of it as that was kind of breaking the internet. There was meme wars on all the accounts for like, it felt like weeks after this. So just wanted to shout that out because there's a lot going on the internet.
Yeah, that's hilarious. What an amazing pick. I'm so mad that my brain didn't go there first, but yeah, that was a fun 2 weeks on Instagram and socials for sure. Hilarious to see that play out.
Oh yeah. But if I'm going to go with a more serious one, I will say Soul Shine as a whole was just a humongous occasion. Tons of crossovers. Goose made the most of their time on stage. It was obviously their first time playing MSG, which is massive, massive for a band that's on their trajectory. And yeah, it's just one of those events that is going to be an all-timer, I think, when you put it all together with all the amazing acts that were there, all the crossovers. And it's a big part of Goose's history. So definitely broke the internet.
Yeah, amazing call out. And I've said this before, but you're going to look back years from now and see that Soul Shine really was kind of like a line in the sand as far as like you can mark their explosion from here from that.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, they're taking off, and a lot of it's going to start from that point.
Yeah, it's a huge jumping off point. I feel like there's been a huge jump onto the bandwagon for a lot of people after that show. A lot of people were exposed to Goose for the first time, and they're really liking what they hear. So I think on to bigger and better things for Goose.
Yeah, for sure.
Working on my segue game here. Speaking of new fans, next superlative, best newcomer. And before we kind of get into this, there's a lot of options here. So I wanted to just read off the scope of all of the options that we have here because there's a ton to pick from. We both thought of this probably in a similar way, I would imagine, where we're picking a new song for the year. And debuted originals, there were 10 new originals debuted as Goose. So first being Salt, and then you got to include interludes 2 and 3, Give It Time, How It Ends, which was played by Vasudo previously, but first time as Goose, Draconian Meter Maid, Big Modern, One In, One Out, My Mind Has Been Consumed by Media, and Dim Lights, which was an Array Below only song up until it was played at Acoustic. And then on the covers list, there's even more options. 23 new covers played this year. You had Gen X Cops and Cape Cod Quassa Quassa by Vampire Weekend. Had No California by Ilse Juber. True Love Waits by Radiohead. War Pig by Black Sabbath. Ship of Fools by The Grateful Dead. You Spin Me Round Like a Record by Dead or Alive. Wipeout, Bob Burhill. Is how it's credited on El Goose. We've had our debates about this, but we're going to stick with the El Goose stuff for here because that's just kind of like a Goose policy. The Stranger Things theme by Survive. Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. Maniac, Michael Sembello. Everyone Wants to Rule the World, Tears for Fears. So I'm Growing Old by Magic Mountain, Father John Misty. Sirius, yes, Alan Parsons Project. Kashmir, Zeppelin, obviously. Then The Help Slip Frank Run by The Dead. Get Down to the Night, Casey and the Sunshine Band. Don't Leave Me This Way, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Lowrider by War, and then I Only Have Eyes for You by the Flamingos. So that's a long-winded way to say lots of stuff to pick from. Obviously, first I saw your face after I had read off Wipeout there. So if you want to get your shot in real quick, you can. But what'd you pick for your best newcomer?
So I'll keep this brief. I think Big Modern is by far and away the best newcomer. I'm thinking / hoping that's yours as well. But that being said, regardless of what your answer is here, I think we can both agree that, especially when you just go through the list of 10 new songs, like it almost seems unfathomable that they could put out 10 new songs of that high of a quality. Like, it's insane what all these new songs have done for set lists in terms of variety, in terms of jams, in terms of improv. I mean, it's just an abundance of wealth and quality in terms of the new releases this year. But that being said, Big Mountain Modern's at the top of the pyramid for me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's got to be Big Modern for me. Was lucky enough to be at that debut at Homedale, and it blew my mind immediately. And it's just continued to ascend up to the top of the list of my favorite Goose songs. It's probably in my top 3 already. Anytime I hear it, I'm stoked. When the ball got pulled at Goosemas, I shrieked like a 6-year-old. So definitely up there as one of my favorite songs, and just an outstanding composition. Once again, Matt Campbell and Rick working together on a song just leads to masterful stuff.
Absolutely.
To your point, also, real quick, just crazy. I mean, that list is insane. 33 new total songs debuted over the year. You can't beat that. As much as we all want to hear like new album, new originals, all that stuff, like the covers are just as special in a lot of ways. And I just thought it was one of those years where you couldn't go wrong at a show, and you couldn't go wrong hearing a new cover. You couldn't go wrong hearing a new original. It was just, there wasn't a bad show in the mix.
No, and their commitment to keeping it fresh. I mean, you got the last of the new covers on New Year's. So, like, I mean, last day of the year, they're still bringing new covers out. So they're the best.
Yep. Just the best, like you said. Next up, we've got Cutest Couple. Ooh. I mean, besides Alex and Mike from Slow Ready Pod, what'd you pick here?
Yeah, so I picked what was a special moment for both of us. Attendance bias, fully acknowledged here on my part, but at a show that had a lot of shocking surprises in it, the biggest one for me was that we got Moby in the middle of our Empress at the Winston-Salem show, which was a benefit show for hurricane relief that was announced kind of last minute. But yeah, when I thought we had gotten through all the crazy surprises of Dead covers, Goose in the middle of an Empress jam drops Moby on us, which I didn't know how long I'd have to wait to see that song. So that is the segue for me that I will remember for quite some time.
Yeah, that's so special. One of the more underrated moments of the year, I feel like, because Moby wasn't broken out in like the official posted set list. It was all kind of included as Empress, but really just flawless segue there. And I mean, there was hugs all over the place that night
Definitely.
for many reasons, but that was one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, I
On
tackled
top
you.
of it being an insane, yeah, it's an insane emotional show with the Phil Lesh news and the tribute to him to get just an incredible jamming moment, and hearing Moby when you would never expect to hear it is just outstanding. But I went in a similar vein. I tried to avoid some attendance bias here, but still thought very similarly to you. And I picked the encore from night 2 of the anthem in Washington, D.C., the Empress into Big Modern back into Empress Sandwich. Might be cheating picking sandwiches, but it's 2 songs technically. One of the sickest transitions you'll ever hear, and kind of the peak of what you're looking for in an encore. Having a good time during Empress, getting into like a happy, fun jam, and then a sudden shift into the darkness, closing out Big Modern, get that final encore of Big Modern, which went unfinished, I believe, the night before in DC. And then Goose surprises us again. They extend out another jam that isn't normally there after that chorus to take us into the end of Empress and close out the sandwich. So just terrific.
Yeah, totally. I feel like those anthem shows are kind of slept on slash underrated a little bit. And Big Modern was very cool, especially in the later half of the year, how they started like moving around it and playing part of it on night one and then popping it back up on night two. Just really cool how they're not scared to be brave and take chances with the brand new song, even.
No, yeah. And that second leg of the fall tour really was leading to some of the more outstanding transitions we were seeing from song to song, and they were just getting bolder and bolder with each show that passed. And it really is going to just continue. You know it is, because they didn't stop at Goosemas, they didn't stop with New Year's Eve, so that was just the peak of that fall tour portion. To that point was that encore, and everyone lost their minds.
Yeah, great point.
Next up, kind of similar to the last superlative, but we went with most likely to be BFFs forever / best bromance or best cismance, depending on how you think about it. So what you got here, Mike?
I've got 4 things here, but I'm going to just do 2 of them to try and save you a little bit of room in case we're somehow on the same page again without planning. But I went with Indian River and the Delta Jam, which I hope those 2 never part. And then also Seekers Part 1 and Seekers Part 2. I know that, you know, you think based on this band that at some point they will be split up, but until I see it, I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah, they're BFFs for sure. They're always together, inseparable. For 2024, though, there's 2 answers I picked here, and I think the one that you were trying to avoid is the one I'm going to say first, which was the Yeti into Pumped Up Kicks in the Yeti sandwich we got a handful of times through the year. It's just a transition and a original into cover that works perfectly, and an all-out dance party. I think it's one of those things where if they continue to sprinkle that in a few times throughout the year, whenever they play Yeti, it's going to be well received. If it gets overplayed and overstays its welcome, might be breaking up the bromance there. But the other one I picked, a little more cheeky, and maybe I sound repetitive, kind of picking some of the same songs over and over again, was Redbird into Hunger Site. Had a few moments this year, and I think it's a pair that should stick together. The ones, I'm not sure if it got played more than this, but the times that stuck out to me was Carnation, Washington, and Winston-Salem. They both went back to back like that, and it's just such a powerhouse combo of different spaces this band can get into, but just kind of giving you the full scope of what Goose can do in a 2-song run.
Great call out. I love the way you thought about that a little bit more creatively than I did. So props to you on that. And I definitely agree. Like Redbird Hunger Site is a pairing that always works. Even if you see like a 3-song second set, but 2 of those 3 are Redbird and Hunger Site, you're like, I bet that set was pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, you can't beat those 2 songs in 2024. I mean, you can, based off our superlatives, but when you see a set with those 2, like you said, you know it's a great show. You can't lose.
Definitely. And one other honorable mention, SOS Dawn. We all obviously know that according to Rick, Dawn is a song now, but they're still going to be in a bromance or cismance or most likely to be BFFs in most cases, anyways.
Just get the debate going, even though it's been settled. Let's just keep the Don debate going here. Next up, we've got most likely to win a beauty pageant. This one was another interesting one. You could think about it in a number of different angles. So where'd you go with this one, Mike?
Yeah, repeating myself a little bit from the Bliss Jam answer, but for me, it's just I went with the two most individually beautiful sections of music I heard from Goose, and those are contained within the Cap Tumble Jam and the Drip Field from St. Augustine. Tumbled, it's the middle section. Drip in St. Augustine, it's like the last 6 minutes or so, but those are the two most beautiful sections of music I heard all year. So for me, those are my beauty pageant winners. What about you, though?
Dude, gorgeous picks. Outstanding. I'm a big fan of those answers. I had two answers, different ways of thinking of it. First has got to be, obviously, Cotter dresses 11.
Oh, dear God.
Just that's an image that's burned in everyone's mind.
Yeah. Wow. Love that.
No, but my real answer, it's got to be Andrew Getty, dude. The dude just continues to create a spectacle for us every night as we're listening to these incredible jams. We're also watching the most beautiful light show in the industry. And every time you think you've seen it all, he's adding another layer to the lighting. He's adding more lights to the rig itself. The functionality of the individual lights is changing. You're changing the shapes and the utility of the fog machines. I mean, hell, we got the crazy diamond of epicness at Goosemas and the bingo lights with the incandescent bulbs or whatever. Like, just terrific. So wanted to shout out Getty for all the gorgeous light work he does for us. And I just wanted to find a way to squeeze him into one of our superlatives because we love Getty.
Yeah, definitely. And the lights keep getting better with by the month, just like the band. So best lighting guy in the business.
Yep. Next up, most likely to bring the drama. This one could be a little dicey.
Oh no, we're not holding back, are we? I mean, I can hold back. But...
No, we're not holding him back. No, go ahead. Let's hear it.
All right, so a couple of ones to hit, just right in a row here. Entry policy that got switched up. That brought some drama, but also rail riders in general, Reddit and Twitter, fans of literally any other jam band. If you're a fan of another jam band and somebody is talking about their favorite jam band, which for me is Goose, lots of drama just for saying that you like them. So plenty of drama to go around.
You absolutely nailed it. I was going to go with either the comments section on any given post or the entry policy. So you kind of nailed my picks there. Just seeing how wound up people get in feeling how entitled they should be to always being up front when this is supposed to be like a communal sharing of joy. Like, it's okay to let someone else have a good time up front and enjoy a show, and not everyone needs to be up there all the time. It just blows my mind. But also, I'm not going to disparage anyone who tries to get up front all the time because I think it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, and I just think it should be a shared thing in the community. And seeing how people reacted to the new kind of lineup policy so negatively in a lot of ways just surprised me.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, we got last to leave the party. I think we probably both thought about this one fairly similarly. What'd you go with here, Mike?
Yeah, just same as before, Factory Fiction. It pretty much at this point only ends shows, so it's the last to show up and the last to leave.
Yeah, Factory Fiction, obvious pick. Also, Empress of Organos, obvious pick. One that I wanted to shout out that was a little more abstract for this was Jeff walking off the stage at New Year's Eve with a bottle of champagne in hand. You can catch him on video, just like straight swigging out of a bottle. Last to leave the stage. That guy knows how to party.
He's a badass. Love that guy.
Yes, he is. All right. Next up, best hidden talent. This is a fun one. Where'd you go here?
Yeah, so for me, I got a really cool experience as we've talked about before. I'm going to try and make this my last time because I don't want to keep talking about it over and over again. But at the private show in Charlotte, Goose let the house crew band open up, which was Loomis and Coach on guitars, Naveed on keys, Sam Bardani on bass, Jordan and Getty on drums, and Fernando, Gil, and Marta on percussion. They all came out in Bucky's gas station tracksuits, and they just went into this like 5 to 7 minute long jam. And then Goose came out on stage and started the show. And I guess there was talks about the band before the encore about potentially letting the crew band go back on stage and just do the encore by themselves, but they want to save it for some other special event. So it's going to come back up at some point from what they said. But for me, getting to see all these extra talents from a crew that already does so much to keep this band on the road and keep us, able to go see them on the road. Special shout out to this crew, because not only are they like the best crew in the game, but they're all obviously people with hidden talents too. So that was an amazing experience, but just want to also just shout them out as a whole. Thank you to the Goose crew. You guys are amazing. And I know that the hours that you guys put in, especially like, I think the Fox run was 3 nights, and then they're up till the wee hours of the morning to pull into Charlotte for a load in on a 102-degree day in North Carolina. So they're so hardworking. They keep this band going. And yeah, I just want a special shout out to them.
Huge shout out to the crew and everyone who makes the band go, along with the band themselves. It's a lot of work on all fronts, and we're so grateful. You said it perfectly, Mike. Thanks for shouting that out. I think that's a really cool way to look at the best hidden talent and also share our love of this band and their crew because, like you said, hardest working band and crew in the land.
100%. 100%.
And that I can't wait to see that crew band play again. That seems like an outstanding memory, and I want to see that again. I want to see him just come out on a normal jam. See like Naveed playing the washboard or something on Hunger Site, like anything.
Well, and that was part of the best of it, was seeing like Naveed's faces and coaches' faces. It's like they all seem to be genuinely enjoying themselves and having such a great time. So I hope whenever that does happen again, that I'm at that special event as well.
Hell yeah. I thought of this in a much more boring way. Sorry. I can't follow up your answer without caveating it, but I went with a song from the tour or from the year. I went with This Old Sea from Charlottesville, which surprised us at that show with a new jam section that kind of never really came back in the same way as that Charlottesville version. Just an awesome outro to that main ballady portion of the song. Get these harmonized woes coming out of it, and then just an incredible jam out of left field, like I said. Just absolutely shocked everyone in attendance, and one of those songs that's not getting enough love when people fill out their brackets for Jam of the Year. Shout out, always almost there, but really, really slept on version of a great emotional song.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm applauding for you quietly over here because just love how your brain works and that you thought of that. That's a really creative way to answer it. And I 1000% agree. A song that had a rebirth in Charlottesville with a whole new section, and unfortunately just haven't seen it back since. But if you were there, it was, I said it before on that episode, most emotional song in the catalog for me, and they made it even more emotional. So special version. Great pick there.
Absolutely, yeah. I had to shout out our first show together as a pod somehow,
Yeah,
so I really wanted to
love that.
find a superlative to fit that song into because that was probably, arguably, the most special moment of the show in a show that had a lot of special moments.
Yeah, that in the tumble for sure. But yeah, great call.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we've got most likely to have a secret identity. Where are we going here? Like secret agent man? What could it be?
So I went with Billy Ray Cyrus. I felt like that was the obvious pick because, as we all know, Billy Ray Cyrus is actually Tweaks. So that was a really special deal in Cincy and an amazing way to close it out. And yeah, what did you go with here?
Oh my god. Yeah, I lied earlier when I said there was no guest in Cincinnati Night 3. Obviously, Billy Ray Cyrus was there, aka Tweaks. I went a little more abstract. I was gonna pick something like The King or The Funky Few from Goose Miss if we wanted to go that way, but I wound up going with Butter Rum because there were so many sneaky good jams on Butter Rum this year that were like going places, like 10 minutes into the song along with the jam, and then it just gets rip-corded back into reality to close out the song. And it's one of these tunes that if they kept exploring these jams, it could be like Tumble was in 2024. It could be like the song of 2025 if they just explore it and do like 25-minute versions of Rum. So some notable versions that really stuck out to me were the Salt Shed in Chicago, insane version of Butter Rum, and then Goose Miss, of course, where it was a totally different experience and just got ripped right back into reality. I want to see this song go places. It's a fun time every time. You got everything you want out of a song. You get your crowd wooing, you get good jams. Like let's take it places.
Dude, back-to-back answers, you're blowing my mind. These are great creative ways to think about these prompts. I absolutely am here for it. And amazing call out on Butter Rum. Like I 1000% agree with you. There's like 4 or 5 versions from this past year where you tack 5 or 6 minutes onto them, boom, jam of the year candidates. It's kind of like
Yeah,
if they would do with Butter Rum what they kind of did with Jive Lee this year, built these things out just a little bit more, I really feel like that's all it would take. But there's a lot of, you're totally right, slept on versions of Butter Rum for 2024.
totally agree completely. Next up, we've got most likely to have a reunion special, and another one that could be very interesting. I'll go first here since I'm making you go first all the time. I feel bad. So the first thing I thought of was the Flamingos have to return at some point. Just book it. Like they got to make a comeback at some point in some capacity. Maybe it'll be an annual Goosemas thing where they squeeze in a flamingo somehow. I don't know, but it's got to happen. But also, second answer, honorable mention. Hopefully, I'm not stealing from you, but the obvious would have to be Goose has to make a comeback to MSG at some point. It's in the cards. It's going to happen. So, wanted to put out the obvious answer there too.
Both great points. You actually didn't steal from me, so thank you, thank you, thank you. I actually just went with Bingo. I think there was maybe a little bit of apprehension online about Bingo coming back. People weren't sure if it was going to be done as well as it was, back during COVID, or if it, necessarily was going to work as well for an event as big as Goosemas. But I truly believe that that event could not have gone better than it did. And so I feel like it's an absolute certainty that at some point, I don't know when, Bingo is going to come back to Goose. It's just a concept that works too well.
Yeah, it's got to be a consistent thing. Maybe they'll even like make special short runs based around Bingo that aren't Goosemas or whatever. Definitely a highlight of Goose's culture overall. I think they really refined it in a way this year that made it like inevitable to not fail. Like there's like no way it could have been a bad run of shows, and I think they can just keep tweaking things slightly and get the perfect balance of like great songs, covers, gimmick balls, you name it. They'll get there. So I'm here for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, most likely to change the world. This one's interesting too. You come up with anything here?
Yeah, so I'll be a little bit sappy here. I know that this episode has been mostly just fun and games, but I do want to say that Rick Materatanda is going to be my pick for most likely to change the world. And this is more of a personal issue than anything else, but I say it a lot and I probably don't say it enough. He's the only guitarist that has ever actually inspired me to take guitar and practicing guitar more seriously. And it's truly because his playing both confuses the shit out of me and inspires the hell out of me. Dude is the man. So he's 1000% changed my life. And yeah, that was my pick. What about you?
I gotta stop following you up, dude. That's like a really nice pick, and I'm not as nice as you, but that's a great call out. Rick is the man, as far as I'm concerned, and people will probably have a field day with me, but I think he's got the best ear and feel for keeping catchy melody going of anyone right now playing guitar.
Yeah,
And that's just my opinion, obviously.
no, I totally agree. His creativity on the spot is unparalleled. And when Pete starts going into something, Rick can just invent a song on the spot. It's amazing.
Yeah, just the ideas never cease to come. But I thought of this totally different, a little sillier. Of course I did. I went with what changed the world is an unexpected hero that none of us saw coming. And it was the pizza box that changed everything before the Miami run,
Oh my God.
where we got a whole new stage arrangement. We got Cotter thrown on the coon hat. We saw a total upgrade in the way this band jams just off of this new layout. And the band's personality really kind of took a different light, and the way that they explored with each other and were able to see each other just took on new life. So I had to shout out that pizza box because it changed the world.
Your creativity throughout this episode has just blown my mind, dude. Well done. Like I'm silently applauding you from afar. So just awesome answer. Pizza Box obviously played a pivotal role in 2024. Cannot agree more.
I mean, really, if you think about it, it's the real sixth member of the band is the pizza box.
Oh dear Lord. Yeah. No, it totally is. I hope that winds its way into a poster or a picture of the band at some point. Pizza box.
Well, we're running pretty long here. We only got a couple superlatives left. Having a lot of fun here, obviously. But next up, we've got most athletic. A lot of ways you could take this one, too. Where'd you go with this one, Mike?
Yeah, I'll be brief since we're getting to the end and we've got a couple more people that we've got to add in here. But most athletic, I just thought of it like the most aggressive jam. For me, there were two of those. Cal Cross credit San Diego Madhuvan and Homedale Madhuvan. Two most aggressive jams of the year for me. Both the same song, but they are in your face and I freaking love them.
Yeah, we had the same thoughts here. I went attendance bias showing again. I went with the home Del Madhuvan. Goose was clearly feeling the metal vibes after debuting their face from Big Modern earlier in the
Yeah.
show, and they just kept that arc going. This was like speed jamming going on, mixed in with just heavy metal. The tapes don't do it justice either. Just being in the venue, it was probably the loudest Goose show I've been to. So awesome, awesome Madhuvan. Great experience. That show, it gets a lot of love, but I feel like that second set is really, really special.
Absolutely.
All right. Last but not least, we got the show/song you're taking to prom. So how about we pick a show and we pick a song for this, Mike?
I'm into it. Let's do it. What do you got for me? Why don't you go first on this one?
All right. Well, thank you, because I'm taking Goosemas Night 2, obviously. Easily the most fun I've ever had at a concert. And clearly the people agree with me because it's still the highest rated Goose show of all time on El Goose. But I'll give a shout out here real quick. If I had to pick a show I was not at, I'll go with Cincinnati Night 2. Trying to avoid attendance bias here. It's like pulling teeth trying to pick these Cincinnati shows. But that second set just like lives on in my head forever with that drive start, get the Kate Bush cover, you get Engborg and a Centerman, got a mist and a hot tea to close it out, and then EMG encore. Like, that's just sick. Like, gives you the stank face just thinking about it. And then song, I got to go with my heart, and I'm just going to go with Redbird. It's a song that just never misses, and again, continues to justify its place as my favorite song to hear. So, got to shout out my favorite, Redbird. It did not miss in 2024. It might not get the love as like the song of 2024, like Tumble did or something, but always outstanding. And some of the best versions you'll ever hear came from this year.
Yeah, definitely, especially that Redbird from the Cap. My goodness. For me, I would go with, I said it earlier a little bit, but the Cap Night 2 would definitely be the show. If I could go to anything from 2024 that I didn't go to, it would definitely be that. As far as like song, I thought of it more like the specific version of song. So I just went with what is my jam of the year for me, which is Dripfield from the Greek. That's going to be my number one no matter what happens between now and next weekend when I submit my jam of the year bracket. So yeah, those are the two that stand out to me. But to Alex's point, I 1000% agree. Out of the songs that or shows that I did go to, Goosemas Night 2 is the best Goose show I've been to so far. So 100% agreement.
Yeah. We talked about it on the episode a little bit. Just the perfect intersection of jams, kind of like gimmicks and theme, good vibes, having a big group of friends there. It just all kind of intersected perfectly, and great songs on top of that. So just wanted to shout that out.
Yeah, most fun ever.
So with that wraps up our superlative section. We wanted to make that the main portion of our episode because it was a lot of fun. Hoping to do this annually. If you want to participate and send us your thoughts on superlatives, we'll put the list up in the show notes for this episode. Hopefully you're still listening to this point. This is a long one. And feel free to email us at slowreadypod@gmail.com. Send us your thoughts. But the final section we wanted to get into was our senior quotes. And we wanted to bring back some of our friends of the podcast that we had on the podcast or where we've hopped on and collaborated with them elsewhere on their show. So we wanted to hear their thoughts on 2024 or what they wanted to say to Goose or what they wanted to say about the fan base or just their shows or anything they wanted to talk about. So first up, we're going to start off with Michael Basty from WTED, and he's going to give us some thoughts on 2024 as a whole. So let's hear it from Basty.
Hey everybody, this is Michael Basty, Program Director over at WTED Goose Radio. We were very happy to be guests on the initial season of the Slow Ready podcast and really love what these fellows are bringing to the community. And just recapping 2024, it was a big year. Cotter showed up. Cotter proved himself to me, to everybody else, I think. And the band was just playing super well throughout the year. One of the biggest things that I noticed musically with his addition is just the dynamic patience. And there was a lot more of that this year than I think in the past. And it was really good to find these new ideas and new themes that Cotter drove us into. The other thing that I would say was one of the bigger things for 2024 for me was I had the pleasure of seeing a good number of shows and traveling a good bit. And the community in 2024 has just grown and thrived and gotten so much bigger and warmer, and everything about it has been awesome. And you can see it whether you're on the inside or the outside. As I'm traveling to different places, there's more events going on that are community led, community driven. The flow downs are bigger. There's more meetups. There's just more fundraisers. A Western Sun is doing bigger things than ever. The Night Zero party before Goosemas was bigger than ever and raised so much money for Conscious Alliance. So 2024, year of awesome music, year of community. Love you guys. Bye.
And thank you to Basty for those words there. And next up, we've got Bruce from the Corner of Gray Street podcast, and he's going to give us some words on 2024 as well.
What's going on, guys? This is Bruce from the Corner of Gray Street podcast, calling in on a mobile phone. First time, long time, by the way. Goose 2024, a love story. But really, what is there to say about this past year that probably hasn't already been said? The hyperbole, the hype, everything is real. One of, if not the best, full calendar years of this band in their existence. I started following them 2018, 2019 or so, and it's easily my favorite year, the most fun that I've had following them, the most interested I've been in their musicality, from jamming to, kind of new songs to what are they going to do next. It started all, obviously, with the announcement of Cotter and the TED tapes and the teases, all the way through the 5-night cap run into summer tour, fall tour, Goosemas, New Year's Eve. And they finally hit up, most importantly, the St. Augustine Amphitheater, one of the best venues in the entire country. And they didn't burn it to the ground because it's still standing, but it was fire all the way through. There is just so much to say about this entire year. But honestly, it's just been incredible to follow this band. They've matured a lot in their jamming. The new songs were fantastic. Rick coming on our podcast was obviously the highlight of everyone's year. If you haven't listened to it, check it out, by the way. And we have so much more to look forward to in 2025. Thank you, Peter, for teasing us yet again. You kind of always spill the beans, and I love that about you. I cannot wait for what's to come. Hopefully, new album or two or whatever, and all of the new shows and tour dates that may be, pretty close to upon us. Thank you guys also for becoming a podcast in 2024. That's another huge thing. So we appreciate that. Love you guys. Love Goose. And as Dave Matthews once said, Goose.
Thanks, Bruce. Always a riot, dude. Always have something funny to say. I was lucky enough to guest with him on the Corner of Gray Street podcast. Go check those guys out if you have a chance. Did an awesome interview with Rick, as he said. Next up, we've got Ryan Storm. Everyone knows Ryan Storm from Always Almost There, to give us some thoughts on 2024 as a whole. Let's hear it, Ryan.
Ryan Storm here. The thing that sticks out to me the most about 2024 Goose is the maturity in their improv, especially in the latter half of the year. And, what we've seen coming out at Goosemas and in Austin is surely just a preview to what's going to happen when they get back on the road in a few weeks for 2025. So it's going to be amazing, and we're here for it all the way.
And thanks so much to Ryan there. And next up, we've got Kelsey, aka Jively Designs. So she's got some words as well for us to listen to on 2024 as we reflect.
Hey, Happy New Year, Goose fans. What a year for our favorite band. They got a new drummer. They played a show on the day of the solar eclipse, played a show in Montana under a supermoon. They rode flamingos across the sea of people, got to play alongside some really, really incredibly talented musicians. 2024 was a really wild ride. I was happy to be along for some of that. Some of my highlights were the Atlanta run and, of course, my hometown Cincinnati run. So thank you for all the shows that I was able to be at, and thank you for all the shows that you played for everybody this year. And thank you for your hard work and your dedication. We appreciate you so much, and we love you, and we'll see you in 2025. Thanks, Goose.
Thanks, Kelsey. Be sure to check out Jively Designs, get some of her artwork. She's incredible and had an awesome episode with us. Worth checking out. And last but not least, we've got our friend Dean from Breakfast with a Ray Below at WTED, and also manages the Goose the Band trivia pages on Facebook and X. Let's hear Dean's thoughts on 2024.
Hey everyone, this is Dean, your weekly host of the Breakfast with the Ray Below show on WTED Radio, and also the creator of Goose the Band history and trivia. I'll sum up 2024 with one quick line from Mr. Action. It's been a wild ride. But the wild ride didn't start in 24. It actually started in late 23 with rumors of Ben leaving the band, and the rumors coming true on December 22nd, leaving fans in a state of sadness and uncertainty. But all that would change 6 weeks later on February 5th with the official announcement that Cotter Ellis had joined the band. My personal highlights are always first and foremost memories from the shows I attended, because like many of you, attendance bias is a real thing. I was extremely fortunate to have been able to attend all 4 shows at the Capitol Theater, and for me personally, the biggest moment of the year was seeing Cotter walk out on stage for the very first time as a member of Goose on April 7th. And as much as we'll miss Ben and everything he gave to the band during his 10-ish years he was in Goose, there were so many emotions from not just the people at the shows, but the thousands streaming from home. And it was most certainly not just a sigh of relief, but happiness that Goose was officially back. I'm also a huge fan of Vasudo and was so happy to hear them bust out Hot Lovin' the Lazy Poet for the very first time that night. There's so many more Vasudo songs they're holding back from us, including my favorite, Jed Stone. Hopefully we get a few more this year. My personal Jam of the Year song came early on, night 2 at the Cap, when the band played their longest ever version of Into the Mist. My liking of the song became my loving of the song. It transformed me into a huge fan of Into the Mist. There were 2 other songs that really had a big impact on me last year. The second was the Westville Rockdale at the Spring Tour closer on June 30th, which was just an incredible, intense version of the song and my personal GOAT Rockdale. The third song actually started off in the parking lot at the PNC Arena on September 1st, when a few of us heard them sound-checking Big Modern. They worked on the chorus so many times during soundcheck, we actually named the song One by One and knew it right away when they opened the second set with the song. One more incredible moment for me personally was my 24-hour journey to Florida to catch their Halloween show. All I wanted to do was get in front of Cotter to see him in action with the new stage arrangement, and for me, Wipeout was my personal best Cotter moment of the year. I'm also so happy to have taken my wife to the Man Show in Philly. That was her 4th Goose show, and she has an uncanny ability to get really long jams at every show she attends, which of course happened at the Man, but she's also a die-hard fan of 80s music, and I was so happy watching her sing No Rain and In Your Eyes that night. So on to 2025 with the band on some serious momentum. While FOMO is a real thing for some of you, just remember, you can't attend every Goose show. My advice is to enjoy what you can see live, stream what you can stream, and listen to every soundboard. This way you won't miss a thing. And of course, you can always join my Facebook group or follow me on X at Goose the Band History and Trivia and learn about their history every day.
Thanks so much, Dean. That was awesome. Really love your perspective on things and all that you provided the community. So, real quick, last high-level thoughts on 2024, Mike. Anything you want to say about the year? Anything you want to shout out before we wrap things up here?
Well, just real quickly, 2024 was their best year yet. We've said that a million times, and very excited for what 2025 holds in store. And also very excited that we as a podcast are going to be at the first shows of 2025 together in Milwaukee. So that's coming up right around the corner, and looking forward to more Goose and more episodes with you, my friend.
Hell yeah, brother. 2024 was such a special year for so many reasons. It's going to be hard to top this yearbook, but Goose continues to defy expectations and continue to just take things over the top and do things better than ever. So, expecting another great year here. And we're growing as a podcast and have gotten so many warm messages from you. So, really looking forward to meeting so many folks in 2025, having more feedback, having more participation on the show from all of you as well. So, hope you enjoyed this episode. Feel free to give us a shout out if you listen this far. You want to send us your superlatives, send us a message at slowreadypod@gmail.com. We'll send you a sticker. And just wanted to give a few quick reminders as we close this episode out. Mike, you want to shout out our dream set list that we're taking submissions for now and kind of give the people the rundown?
Yeah, so just a reminder on our dream set list format, we do have the link to the forms where you can make your picks already online. We've already gotten a bunch of great responses from people in the community, so please keep them coming. And if you know anyone else that may want to participate, please direct them to any of our pages. We have the link, posted and visible for you to just join in. All you've got to do is pick your songs in order. We've got every song available that they played in 2024 for you to choose from. And you can also, as we said before, advocate for specific versions. But like I said, already a bunch of responses in, and want to get as many more as we can before we drop this episode. And that'll be in a couple weeks here. So you do have time, but next week we'll be covering Dripfield for our album reviews, continuing with that. So please get those set lists in for us.
Yeah, we're taking the dream set list submissions till January 24th, like Mike said, but we'll have an episode between covering Dripfield. So plenty of time to get your submissions in as you're listening to this. And like you said, tons of awesome options. The picks have been all over the place so far. Hoping to see some more unique set lists as this goes on. And we're really looking forward to seeing where this goes. And hopefully it becomes like an annual thing that people look forward to, that, is just another thing in this fan base that people like participating in. So I just want to thank you all again for listening this far. It's been an awesome start to 2025, and looking back on 2024 was so much fun with you, Mike. Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely. Looking forward to more of it, and y'all take care out there.
Take care, y'all. Follow us at Slow Ready Pod anywhere you can, and we'll see you soon.